Welcome back to the FPL video and podcast. This will be the chip strategy guide for the entire season. If you have every single chip available, I'll discuss the best time to use every single one of those boosters, as well as all the ins and outs about how every single chip works, especially the assistant manager chip, which some of you might still be unsure about, and that's completely understandable. After the Carabao Cup semi-finals, we have gotten the confirmed double Game Week 25 teams, and that's going to be Liverpool and Aston Villa. So Liverpool will face Wolves at home and Aston Villa away, whilst Aston Villa have two home games against Ipswich Town and Liverpool. I'll also discuss future assistant manager opportunities later in the season, which could include double game weeks in 33 or 36. All the blanks for 29 and 34 will also be covered. Smash the like button of this video if you enjoy it or find it insightful, and subscribe to the channel. Our aim is to get this to a 300 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 32,000 subscribers. Check all the links in the description, like my X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Spotify, and the FPL League, and keep your eyes peeled for use of your fantasy content for that Matchday 9 deadline. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Let's start off by highlighting the double game weeks, of course, for the season. We are currently in the middle of double game week 24, where Liverpool have just faced Bournemouth away. They got the 2-0 win, and they're facing Everton next, also away from home. And that Merseyside derby will be very crucial in determining who has kind of won this week between David Moyes, assistant managers, or Arne Slot, or perhaps the Mohamed Salah triple captaincy. Now for double game week 25, I covered that at the beginning of this video. Liverpool and Aston Villa will blank in game week 29 and then double in game week 25. Now for game week 33 or 36, that's going to be very interesting because 6 to 8 teams are projected to blank in game week 34 because of the FA Cup quarterfinals, and they will double in either game week 33 or 36. There is the possibility of us having two double game weeks, so one in 33 and one in 36, with the doubles spread around between both of them. That's the most likely scenario, but there is a possibility that game week 36 remains a kind of normal week, so to speak, and all of the doubles going into 33. That is a possibility, and we could also have a blank in 37, which I mentioned in a recent live stream, but that does seem fairly unlikely at the moment. So if we also look towards the blank game weeks, for 29, Liverpool and Aston Villa will blank in game week 29 and double in game week 25. This is due to a clash with the Carabao Cup final, which has resulted in the fixture being brought forward. However, Newcastle will likely face Crystal Palace in game week 33 instead, with neither side featuring in Europe. There is the possibility of Newcastle versus Crystal Palace remaining in blank game week 29 if both teams fail to qualify for the FA Cup quarterfinals. So for blank game week 34, moving on to that one as well, teams that reach the FA Cup semi-finals will blank in game week 34 due to a clash in the schedule. As a result, these teams will double in either game week 33 or 36. So that is pretty much the breakdown of all the doubles and blanks. Let's now move on to some of the chips, which are very important. The triple captain is very simple. Instead of having a captain's points doubled, it's going to be tripled instead. So, for example, if Mohamed Salah scores 16 points, which he has done so far in game week 24, he would score 32 points as your captain. With the triple captaincy enabled though, you would get 48 points overall, an additional 16 points on top of the other 16 you get for the captaincy. You can only use it once per season, and it only lasts for one game week. Just like the bench boost, it is reversible and can be cancelled at any point before the deadline. If your triple captain doesn't feature in a game week, your vice captain will have their points tripled instead. So those are the very important points about the triple captaincy. Similar to most chips, the ideal time to play this would be in a double game week, but you can do it in a single game week. Like back in game week 2 against Ipswich Town, I went for Erling Haaland. He got a hat-trick and 17 points, so a very decent return, but Salah will of course beat that this week. And Salah against Southampton in game week 28 is a very decent opportunity which stands out amongst single game week fixtures. But if you still got the triple captain, I would be looking at double game week 25 or either 33 or 36, depending on how the fixtures land. And we don't know that yet. We'll have a clearer idea after the FA Cup games this weekend, but we don't know that for sure. And of course, once the announcements come out in a couple of weeks to months' time, that's when we can finalize some of these plans. But double game week 25 on paper looks even better in my opinion. Wolves at home and Aston Villa away is a better double compared to Bournemouth and Everton away if you look at the quality of the fixtures. But of course, Salah got 16 points against Bournemouth, who are one of the most informed teams in the country. That goes to show you how good Liverpool and Mohamed Salah are at this moment in time. But with the bench boost, if you play this, that means the players on your bench will be included in terms of your overall game week score. It can only be played once during a season and is only active for one game week. Most FPL managers aim to have this chip used in a double game week with the potential to have a full 15-man squad with 2 fixtures within the same match day. You may avoid a team selection headache or benching dilemma by using the bench boost. Ensure that your preferred captain and vice are in your starting 11. The reason for this is because you can't captain or vice captain a player on your bench. They have to be in your starting 11. But apart from that, you can bench anybody you like. It really doesn't matter. What most people do is kind of bench their weakest players and see if they gain a significant score from the bench boost chip, but it is probably the weakest of the lot alongside the triple captain. The most important ones are coming up next, but let's talk about the bench boost a little longer. This chip can be cancelled at any point before the deadline. A popular combination over the years has been the wildcard with the bench boost. Based on the fixture schedule this season, Gameweek 33 or 36 seems to be the optimal time to activate this chip. It can still work in a single game week, but there are many variables such as rotation, injuries, and suspensions. Ideally, you would use the bench boost in the biggest double game week of this season, so either 33 or 36. It looks like Gameweek 33 might be the biggest, but that isn't locked in at this moment in time. Let's now move on to the free hit chip, which is the third most powerful in FPL. The free hit allows FPL managers to make unlimited changes to their team without points hits for one game week only. All the players you own before activating the free hit will return to your squad in the following match day. For example, if you activate the free hit in blank Gameweek 29, your team will revert back to how it was before you made those transfers in Gameweek 30. Once you play the free hit, you cannot cancel it, and unlike the wildcard, which can be used twice per season, there is only one free hit available to you for the entire campaign. Now, another thing to really bear in mind is that the most popular time to use the free hit isn't a blank or double game week. A blank is caused by the rearrangement of fixtures due to other cup competitions. So for example, Liverpool and Aston Villa will blank in 29 because Liverpool have reached the Carabao Cup final and they're going to double in Gameweek 25 as a result. Instead of removing some of the best FPL assets to fill the starting 11 during a blank, you can free hit these players out. Using the free hit in blank Gameweek 29 or 34 would allow you to build the best 11 for that specific game week, while other FPL managers will struggle to fill decent numbers. A more aggressive approach is using the free hit in a double game week, so maybe 25, 33 or 36 would be on your agenda, but my personal preference right now would be using it during a blank game week. So now moving on to the wildcard chip, which is ultimately team dependent in terms of the best time to use it. Before the assistant manager chip came along, the wildcard was undoubtedly the most powerful booster in the game. It allows you to make unlimited changes to your team, but unlike the free hit, these modifications are permanent and last longer than one game week. Without the wildcard, you are limited to free transfers. Any additional moves would incur a -4 hit each time. Once you activate the chip and confirm some moves, you can't cancel it. Transfers no longer reset this season after you activate the wildcard. If you have 4 free transfers, you'll keep them for the following game week. If you have any questions about any of the chips, even after watching this video, or in terms of strategy and the best time to use a booster, or perhaps just a little detail, then let me know down in the comment section below and they will be answered very promptly. But let's now complete this wildcard section with other really important points. A tried and tested strategy is using the second wildcard towards the very end of the campaign. It can help you navigate blank and double game week seamlessly, or allow you to dead end your team. So for example, you dead end into blank Gameweek 29, then wildcard out of it in Gameweek 30 because you know your main focus is Gameweeks 25 to 29. Then you can wildcard and then focus for the remaining Gameweeks of the season. One popular approach will be using the wildcard around Gameweek 30, immediately after blank Gameweek 29. I'm aiming to use the wildcard after that blank Gameweek, of course, which gives me the option to navigate blank Gameweek 29 without using the free hit. Ultimately though, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's about your own team and situation. It is a team-dependent question about the wildcard. So compared to the other chips where I have kind of provided specific game weeks where you can use it, I think with the wildcard it's a bit more open-ended. You could say between Gameweek 30 to 32. For some people watching, it might be better to wildcard in Gameweek 27 or 28, or perhaps even later in the season around Gameweek 35. But I think for a lot of people watching, between Gameweek 30 and 32 will be very popular indeed. But let's now talk about the most powerful chip and something that's disrupted FPL this season, the Assistant Manager Booster. So this chip is all about the chosen team's performance, not the manager, despite the name. If your manager gets sent off or leaves the club, it won't affect your FPL points. All Premier League coaches cost between 0.5 million to 1.5 million. There are no price changes at all. This chip doesn't replace a player. You need money in the bank to add this assistant manager to your team. Once activated, the assistant manager will last for 3 game weeks and you cannot use any other chips during that time frame. You get your money back to invest in your 50-man squad after the 3 game weeks have concluded. If there are any questions, like I said, don't hesitate to ask. Someone will definitely help you. If I don't, but I probably will, to be fair. Discord server, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and there's also the comment section of this video. It goes without saying that you can't captain this assistant manager, and it's irreversible once confirmed, and it can only be used once per season. Now, some people have had some issues when activating the chip, because when you do click it, it will say pending, because you need to pick a manager first and then confirm the transfers. That's when it becomes locked in. But if you just click the assistant manager chip and it will say active or pending, that doesn't mean that it's fully locked in, and at that point you can actually still cancel it. But what I mean by the fact that it's irreversible is once you confirm the moves, like with a wildcard or free hit, there is no going back. So although your first selection won't use any free transfers, subsequent changes will. If you picked David Moyes last week and now want to switch to Arne Slot, that will incur a transfer. And even in the same game week, by the way, if you activate the assistant manager for game week 25, you go for Unai Emery and hoping for, some table bonus there for the Spaniard. And then you're like, you know what, I just want to go for Arne Slot, but you already went for Emery in the first place. That will actually take up a transfer by moving to Arne Slot before the deadline. Now, 3 players per team extends to the assistant manager. So if you've got Trent, Gakpo and Salah, you can't go for Arne Slot at the same time. You need to get rid of one of those players first before bringing the Dutch coach in. So if your chosen manager faces a club ranked at least 5 places higher in the Premier League table, you get extra points for a win or draw. If the manager qualifies for the table bonus at the start of the game week, they will remain eligible for the entire game week. So let's actually talk about the point system and how it works. It's very important. So if your manager gets a win, they get 6 points for that victory. A draw results in 3 points, and a loss inevitably provides you 0 points for that particular match. Now, each goal scored gives you 1 point. A clean sheet gives you 2 points, and the table bonus is so crucial. So it says 10 points for a win, and it doesn't mean, for example, instead of 6 points, you get 10 points. No, you combine both of those figures. So if David Moyes beats Arne Slot in double game week 24, he will get 16 points for a victory, whilst Arne Slot only gets 6 points. So that's why table bonus is so crucial. As for a draw, you get 5 additional points on top of the 3 you normally get. So that'll be 8 points for a draw if Everton get a point against Liverpool in a couple of days' time. So that's how it works. Once again, any questions, I'd be very interested to see what you have to say. Maybe some points you have to raise about the best time to use it. Are you going for Unai Emery or Arne Slot for double game week 25? Now, I actually went for Arne Slot myself because I was really confident Liverpool would reach the Carabao Cup final and have back-to-back double game weeks. So I sold Cody Gakpo as part of a -4 hit, although essentially I technically did sell him for free to get Arne Slot. It was just I decided to get an Everton player for an additional hit, which is out of my own making, but I'll discuss that more so in the team selection video. And my transfer plans has covered my recent moves to a certain extent. The same goes for the transfer tips. Check that out as well if you want the ultimate Game Week 25 coverage. But let's now move on to other assistant manager opportunities you'll have later in the season. But first up, of course, what I discussed at the beginning of the video, Arne Slot and Unai Emery are both doubling in 25. So those fixtures have been covered already and you can see them on screen. Then Arne Slot has Man City away in Game Week 26 and Newcastle at home in Game Week 27, whilst Unai Emery has Chelsea at home and Crystal Palace away after double Game Week 25. But 2 home fixtures there for the Spaniard, and there is the possibility of table bonus against Liverpool, but you're not going to get that from Arne Slot because they're top of the table and it's impossible for them to get table bonus for the rest of the season. They're going to stay in first, and the worst they can go to is second, and that's going to be very unlikely, to say the least. Let's now move on to other opportunities later in the season. So Newcastle have reached the Carabao Cup final. Eddie Howe will likely double in Game Week 33, and they would face Aston Villa away and Crystal Palace at home if that were to be the case. And you could activate the chip around Game Week 31 and have Leicester away, Man United at home, and then that double game week I just mentioned for Eddie Howe. And the alternative is Oliver Glasner with several opportunities for table bonus where they would face Brighton at home in Game Week 31, then Man City away, and a double game week for Crystal Palace of Bournemouth at home and Newcastle away. Now, it was Oliver Glasner last season who would have scored so many points if you activate the chip around the time they beat Liverpool, for example, at Anfield and caused several upsets. When he just joined the club, he made an immediate impact. So that's the sort of thing you're kind of hoping for. I've gone quite conservative with the assistant manager, but it has worked out so far. Let's see if Liverpool get the victory in the Merseyside derby, which is very likely in my opinion, but football can throw some curveballs from time to time. But it's not just double game week 33 we need to look out for, it's also 36. So the likes of Postecoglou and David Moyes could also double in one of these game weeks, 33 or 36. It isn't quite clear cut just yet, but if this was the case and they double in game week 36, you could activate the assistant manager around game week 35 or 36, and you'd have a double for Spurs of Crystal Palace at home and Liverpool away, Aston Villa away, and to round off the season, Brighton at home for Tottenham Hotspur, whilst Everton would have Fulham away and Chelsea away in game week 36, Southampton at home in 37, and then Newcastle away for the final game of the season, with several opportunities there for table bonus. But if David Moyes keeps on winning before we get to that stage, maybe that's not going to be the case because he has done such a tremendous job with the Toffees so far. But these aren't the only two managers who could double in game week 33 or 36. We've also got a few more, and that includes Ruben Amorim and Iraola. So you could go for something like this around game week 31 to 33. It all depends when the doubles land, like I mentioned before. Man City at home, Newcastle away, Wolves at home, and Bournemouth away could be a decent time to go for Amorim and Man United there with the assistant manager, with several opportunities once again for table bonus. And for Bournemouth, West Ham away, Fulham at home, and then Crystal Palace away, followed up by Man United at home as a possible double in game week 33. But that is provisional. I have to stress that it isn't locked in. It's just an opportunity that we could look at in a couple of weeks' time. Now, Guardiola and Enzo Maresca around game week 36 could also be very interesting. Southampton away and Aston Villa at home is also very enticing there for Pep Guardiola. Bournemouth at home and then Fulham away, whilst Maresca could have Newcastle away, Everton at home, Man United at home, and then Nottingham Forest away. But not much opportunities there for table bonus with Chelsea. I'd be more intrigued by Pep Guardiola, although to be fair in his case as well, no table bonus against any of those opponents you would expect, but a very high ceiling against Southampton away, for example, and City might have fixed a lot of problems by that stage, or at least gotten to a stage where they look strong for next season, and a lot of us are still expecting them to bounce back under one of the best managers of all time. But the final teams and managers I want to highlight would be around game week 36 as well, if not 33. Arne Slot and Unai Emery once again, just like we have for double game week 25. So in this case, Liverpool could face in game week 36 Arsenal and Tottenham at home, Brighton away in 37, and then Crystal Palace at home in game week 38, whilst Emery would have Bournemouth and Man City away in game week 36, Tottenham at home in 37, and then Man United away for the final league game of the season. So those are some provisional doubles to think about and possible assistant manager opportunities. But if I'm kind of breaking it down and when would I use the assistant manager chip, game week 25 is a very solid time to use it, but the triple captaincy on Salah looks very enticing for 25. And I did say this before, one of the main reasons why I activated the assistant manager in game week 24 is because I was backing Liverpool to reach the Carabao Cup final, which they have done inevitably, and that means back-to-back double game weeks, and you get 5 matches in a matter of 3 game weeks from a manager. That is a very powerful way of using the most powerful chip in FPL. So if you have missed that opportunity and you've still got the assistant manager in your back pocket, you don't have to use it in 25. That's just one window where you could feasibly use it and go for Arne Slot or Unai Emery and target that double game week, then move to Arteta in game week 26, for example. But if not, you would be looking around game week 31 and then having those fixtures to 33 for some of the examples I just mentioned. But it all depends on how the doubles land. I would not be using the assistant manager chip during a blank game week. I'd be looking to target the doubles and getting an additional fixture, so getting 4 matches in a 3 game week period. Otherwise, Gameweek 35 or 36, I think, would be the optimal time to use the system manager. But until we know when these doubles land, it's impossible for me to kind of pinpoint one specific Gameweek which I prefer over the others. But at the moment, I would lean towards Gameweek 35/36. Do not use this chip, the assistant manager, in Gameweek 37 because it's active for 3 Gameweeks. And if you're using Gameweek 37, you're only getting 2 Gameweeks from the best booster in the game. As for the wildcard, which I mentioned before, Gameweek 30 to 32 looks really good for a lot of people, but that's not going to speak to everyone because everyone's situation is different. With the free hit, for example, blank Gameweek 29 or 34 looks like the best time to use it, and I would lean towards Gameweek 34 at this moment in time. With the bench boost, either Gameweek 33 or 36, whichever double ends up being bigger, that's when I would use the bench boost. And the triple captain, I wouldn't mind using it in a single Gameweek, like 28 on Mohamed Salah, or perhaps in one of 33 or 36, but I have to say, I'd probably use it in Gameweek 25 with a double of Wolves at home and Aston Villa away for the best Liverpool player. Mohamed Salah is not just the best Liverpool player, but also the best FPL asset. That has been the case for quite some time now, but in terms of the chips and the best time to use it, that's all been covered just now, but also be mindful about the fact that you can't use 2 chips at the same time, and if you activate the assistant manager, you won't be able to use any other chip in that free Gameweek period, which I've extensively highlighted throughout this video. So if you want a bench boost in 36, you can't use the assistant manager around Gameweek 35 or 36 at the same time. So hopefully this video helps in terms of identifying the windows of using every single booster, because some of you might have every single chip available, others might have just 1 or 2, maybe some of you have used all of them, but this video can still be helpful in terms of how to navigate future blanks and doubles. If that's the case, drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Our aim is to get this to 300 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 32,000 subscribers. Check all the links in the description below, like my X and Instagram, Dylan RCM, the Discord server, FPL League, Spotify, as well as Blue Sky. You can find me across most social media platforms by typing FPL Dylan as well. And check out my Patreon, which is patreon.com/DylanRCM. And there's also the channel memberships if you click the join button on YouTube. Thank you to the super chatters, patrons, members, and subscribers. Your support is massively appreciated. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and Champions League fantasy content, which includes a deadline stream on Tuesday.